We'll now move on to the meeting of the Cunningham Town Board for Monday, December 12th, 2022. When the clerk is ready, please call the roll.
Miss Wu,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Miss Hersey,
Here.
Miss Colasetti,
Here.
Miss Bishop,
Here.
Miss Wilkin,
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry, Mayor Marlin,
Here.
Miss Chenoweth, Mr. Williams.
Here.
We'll move on to approval of the minutes for November 14th, 2022. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Grace. Are there any substantial corrections? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Additions to the agenda, I would ask for a motion to add to the closed session topics, one for appointments according to 5 ILCS 120/2C3.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Jaya, second by Sharice. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Yes.
Miss Hersey,
Yes.
Miss Colasetti,
Yes.
Miss Bishop,
Yes.
Miss Wilkin,
Yes.
That motion passes. Next item is public participation. Does any member of the audience wish to address the Cunningham Town Board? If you do, please step up to the microphone and state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll move on to committee to verify bills. Danielle.
Just pulling up the bills, hold on a second. So this month, we had in the town fund $71,937.82 in expenditures. In the general assistance fund, we had $82,345.44 for a total of $154,283.26. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and I'll give my full report during the officer's report.
Mary Alice.
So I noticed under the rental registration, sorry, not rental registration, rental reimbursement, there was a dispute with Ramshaw Real Estate.
Yeah, so what happened is that we paid for the application fee for a participant to move into housing, and then they used our credit card to pay for rent.
Gotcha.
We disputed the charge, and they reimbursed us the amount, and we've changed our policies. So essentially, when we purchase, we do use the credit card to pay for application fees. In fact, there are many landlords that won't use any other form of payment. But we've set it up so that our operations director is the only one who does that, and she removes the credit card number after it's done. So hopefully that will not happen again.
All right. Thanks for catching that. Thank
Yep.
you.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the bills for the town fund and general assistance fund?
So moved.
Is that Chandra? Okay.
Second.
Moved by Chandra, seconded by Jaya. Further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Miss Hersey,
Yes.
Miss Colasetti,
Yes.
Miss Bishop,
Yes.
Miss Wilkin.
Yes.
That motion passes. Reports.
So first, I just want to open with a heartfelt thank you to Wayne Williams for 5 years of service as our assessor. This news came recently to me, so I have not had time to prepare my statements, but I really want to make a few comments. He has introduced the important concept of equity to the assessor's office, and I've watched him and his staff correct years of inequities in assessments using scientific and appropriate bases for determining the fair share of residents' taxes This has a huge impact on the fair distribution of wealth and resources in the community, and I think it's largely gone under the radar, but it has not gone under my radar. He has supported our office and the supervisor's office with deep financial and administrative experience. I can call him pretty much at all hours, including weekends, with questions. He has gotten me out of all kinds of tangles when I wasn't quite sure how to proceed with issues. He has deep, his experience in administration and finances goes far beyond mine, and I've really appreciated being able to lean on him at any time that I've needed him. He has graciously allowed the supervisor's office to expand, moving his office into Lincoln Square. And he's really supported the mission of assistance to low-income residents, offering his advice, time, and expertise, and continuing to allow me to nudge him over on his budget so that we can provide more assistance to the poor. He also, I want to point out, and this will have to do with the appointment process, I have watched Wayne train and support a number of people, some of them young people, who, albeit highly qualified for the position in terms of their financial and property acumen, but may have been looked over for working in an area of assessments, which is almost entirely staffed by white residents south of Interstate 80. And so both of our offices have really worked hard to prove how important it is to work with residents in our community and make sure everybody has a chance to have a good paying government job with benefits and retirement. And I really appreciate the investments that he's made in his staff. Anytime I have any questions for them, they're highly professional and highly available and able to answer any questions that I have. And it has been very easy for me to direct members of the public to his office to get answers. And I just want to sincerely thank you for your service, and I congratulate you in moving on to bigger and better things. In terms of the officer's report, and I will pass things over to the assessor's office, I just wanted to point out a couple of top issues. We do continue to see general assistance participation go down and rental assistance go up. So it's an interesting situation where there's a lot of jobs, but not paying well enough for people to stay above water with rent. Our education and employment track has grown, so we now have 13 participants on that track. We still have 39 participants on our disability and wellness track, the larger share of the pie. I did want to point out, and I will give you a monthly update on where we are with rental assistance. Right now, we've spent 77.6% as of December 1st. That's with us going down in our rental assistance from 2 months to 1 month and really kind of constraining that program. So we are at about $97,000 by the beginning of this month. We'll be further, we're probably past the 100,000 mark, and we budgeted 125. So we are gonna just haven't seen. I have in the ARPA proposal before you'll see the history of rental assistance, and it's just been out of this world. It was $217,000 last year, and we really thought that was going to come down this year. But it continues to remain high. A couple of other things. We are up to 48 individuals served in street outreach in the month of November. This is up from 42 in October and close in the 30s for the months before. The Strides Low Barrier Shelter did open today. I talked with my cohort on the other side of Wright Street, Andy Kornstrom, and so they are open for business. That is really, really great news for many of the folks who haven't been qualifying for shelter. That said, the See You at Home shelter has been full and Strides is full, basically. So we're hoping that we can move some folks into shelter, but we really do need to build capacity to be able to accommodate the specific need. This is the largest body of individuals we've worked with in street outreach since we started our program. I did want to say, in terms of emergency housing, because of the grant from CU Public Health, we have no actively unsheltered families on our wait list, so that was a huge concern. that I brought to you and have been ringing the alarm bell for. So that is a short-term grant. It is 4 units. It's between that and the 2 additional units that RPC added. We've been working together to make sure everyone's been housed. We do have 2 families close to homelessness, kind of in and out, so we're assessing that situation. We did get 100% property tax exemption granted for our 2 properties, so that was a huge put in that application, and they're very quick to turn it around. So happy to see that. I think the only other thing I would say is utility is for support. We did call through 168 Urbana residents slated for shutoff of their power this last month. We spoke with 55 individuals initially and left 84 voicemails. Honestly, if it was not for our internship program, we really couldn't do this kind of volume of service. I want to thank Daniel Kaufman, who has finished his intern for the semester, but he basically championed this call through, and all of our interns do really heavy lifting like this, where they're called, these are, I hate to put it, but they're college students who are not used to talking on the phone with people. That's just, and so it is frightening, and they do it, and they get used to it, but by the time they leave our office, they can talk to anybody about anything. So I'm really proud that we were able to help and support several dozen folks mostly with referrals. LIHEAP opened up, and we push people at LIHEAP first, and then if they're not able to be served, then we serve them. So there may be some folks who come back to us, but we were able to get a lot of folks served and connected through that process. I just also wanted to say we had a big boost in our digital inclusion campaign. We've been partnering with Cricket Wireless by the Schnooks. And basically, we've gotten 382 smartphones in people's hands since we started the program about a year and a half ago. So that has really been going well. And we did receive the funding for Solidarity Gardens that we had applied for with our intern, Dustin Bacon, and he will become our Solidarity Gardens coordinator, at least for the spring semester, as we await the second half of that funding. So that was good news as well. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Danielle? Okay. I guess we'll move on to Wayne.
Actually, my deputy Ivana, she has a presentation for you all about our annual conference in Boston.
Okay, thank you. Please make sure the green light's pressed on the mic.
All right, can everybody hear me okay? That's good? All right. Hi, as Wayne said, my name is Ivana Awana. I work at the Cunningham Township Assessor's Office, and I have for approximately 4 years now. And I will be giving a presentation today, on our IAAO conference from 2022. This was my second time attending an IAAO conference. Oh. My apologies, I had to export this in PDF format. Okay. All right, so IAAO, for those who don't know, is the International Association of Assessing Officers, and it is an educational and research-based nonprofit organization with a focus on fair and equitable property tax. It was founded in 1934. It's been around for quite some time. They've been having conferences for quite some time, and there are approximately 8,000 members internationally. The annual IAAO conferences offer attendees a diverse array of continuing education sessions. We have access to over 100 vendors and exhibitors, and we are able to network with assessment professionals from across the world. And although IAAO conferences all have these components that I just listed, there are some things that change depending on the year and the region we're in, such as the location. So for the conference in 2022, it was held in Boston, Massachusetts, and there were between 1,200 and 1,300 in-person attendees from across the globe. There were about 70 or so education sessions offered in person, but there were also around a dozen that were offered virtually through Zoom for any non-in-person attendees. These 70-plus education sessions offer us continuing education credit, which we need in order to keep any designations or special designations within property tax organizations such as IAAO, or at our state level, IPAI, which stands for the Illinois Property Assessment Institute. There are also opportunities for networking, such as ones that were relevant to our office. The U40, which I have listed, is a group that gets together that is specifically for assessment professionals under the age of 40 or who have less than 5 years of experience, regardless of age. Following that, the Women's Initiative Network, which they hold a luncheon each year that we like to attend, is for women of the organization, obviously, as well as allies. And then the Emerging Leaders Summit, the last thing I have listed there under networking opportunities, that was a specific class you had to sign up for in advance this year, but it was a 3-part course that I will get into a little bit later in the slide, as I did have some heavy involvement with that. And then just other volunteering opportunities throughout the conference, such as taking names, getting badges at the check-in desks, ensuring that everyone is able to sign in and get credit for their continuing education as they take sessions. And additionally, it reduces the price for us to attend the conference each year if you do volunteer. So that's always nice. Okay, so for the education specifically, on the left-hand side, starting with working with the legal framework, those are, excuse me, let me catch up here. Those are educational tracks that are based on the Appendium, which is a property tax body of knowledge that is curated by topical experts chosen by the IAAO Board of Directors. As you can see, those 8 topics that are listed right there are unchanging, regardless of when the conference is being held. However, specific sessions that could go under those umbrella categories are chosen and are different each year, and those are chosen by the Conference Content Task Force, which I am actually a part of for the upcoming conference in 2023 for Salt Lake City. So for the education sessions attended in 2022, these were some of the ones that I wanted to highlight. There are obviously way more than this that were available, but these were some of the ones that I found had the best information or best presentations while I was attending. The ones that are highlighted are 2 specifically that I felt were really good for our office in terms of bringing back information. The first, obviously, we are a relatively small jurisdiction with around 12,000 parcels. There are offices who attend this conference who have over 100,000, so there can be a large variance in terms of how you do things in the office, what tools you might use, and especially depending on budget, the resources you have available to your office. So with that particular class, it taught us how to adjust our, it taught us how to adjust our office's resources to be mirroring larger jurisdictions that have more opportunity to use more, let me start that sentence over. When it comes to mass appraisal using the income approach, there are more examples and more ways that you can better, how do I exactly explain this? I'm sorry, I'm trying to avoid using assessment-specific jargon, just to keep it as simple as possible. But basically, these income approach techniques are often utilized more efficiently in larger offices. And this presentation was able to scale it down to be more efficient for smaller offices using traditional methods as opposed to digital. And also, it accommodates smaller budgets was a big focus of that course as well. Considering that, it's not exactly, we are not exactly rolling in money in some of the smaller jurisdictions, so we want to be as careful as we can with our budget to serve our community best. And then where it's the second one that is highlighted, starting with Mind the Gap, that was actually the full title of the Emerging Leaders Summit course. That was the final course out of the 3, so that's why it has a different title than the one I gave previously, ELS. So with that particular course, it was a 3-part course centralizing on intergenerational success in the workplace. And as I just mentioned, the concluding session was offered live at the conference as well as to virtual attendees. And there was also a Q&A panel live at the conference that I was a part of as well. So to go a little bit more into that particular experience, the Emerging Leaders Summit class was developed by one of the people who is my mentor currently. And it is based off of the book Gentelligence by the authors that I listed in the PowerPoint. And the text, as well as the class, focuses on navigating the pathway to intergenerational success in the workplace. So for our particular class, of the 3 sessions, there were between 30 and 35 participants for each class that we had, for the first 2, I should say, since those were done virtually, most likely at home for most people. And then the 3rd session was actually open to anyone who attended the IAAO conference, not just people who were in the ELS course. So at the concluding panel, or at the concluding session, there was kind of a summation of what the class had been, just for everyone else to have a little bit of context for those who didn't attend the other 2 classes, as well as there being a live Q&A panel with people of varying generations, including myself. So for the ranging participants, it went all the way from people who were in the baby boomer generation down to myself. I was the only assessment professional in the class representing Gen Z. So with this particular course, it offered me not only very good insight as to how other people with different life experiences to myself may operate in the office, but I was also able to provide a very unique insight. Seeing as how the vast majority of people in the assessment industry tend to be of the older generations, usually about 40 years old or older. They tend to be male and they tend to be white. I have a very unique perspective that not only my age is able to bring, but also my other intersecting demographics. And that is not only something that was great for this emerging leaders class, in which I was able to act as a consult to anyone who had questions afterwards regarding succession planning or recruitment, but it also afforded me several other opportunities that I may have not had the opportunity to have had I not attended the conference. So as I just mentioned, I was one of 4 people requested to be a panelist among a class of 30 for the Emerging Leader Summit. I was also able to secure mentors, as well as a team of assessment professionals from across the country who are very committed to seeing me thrive in my assessment journey, seeing as I am so young, and they really do want to try and usher in a new generation, if you will, of assessors. And I am the start of that for a lot of these older professionals. And following that, for the year of 2021-2022, just the tail end of 2021, predominantly 2022, I served on the nominating committee for IAAO, and that was through me networking at my first conference, which was held in Chicago in 2021. I actually networked with, at the time, I was unaware, was the vice president of the organization. There was a session given on DEI, and considering my formal education background, I have degrees in psychology and African American studies from the University of Illinois over here. I went up to her after class and I expressed that I could kind of sense confusion in the room among people because of the way that she was explaining this particular topic. And I offered her my notes as to how I thought that this could be better delivered in terms of giving the information in a way that everyone in the room would respect and accept. And she took my notes in stride, and she actually contacted me following the conference and said, hey, I'd really like to connect with you further. I think you have some great ideas, and I think you'd be able to bring great things to this organization. So I was put onto the nominating committee because of that, actually, and that is the only committee for IAAO that is written into the bylaws. Following that, for similar reason, same person, I was appointed to the Conference Content Task Force for, again, tail end of 2022 for the entire year of 2023 by the current IAAO president, who was the person that I just mentioned was the VP at the Chicago conference in 2021. This is because she saw my work on the nominating committee, and she also saw how I operated at the IAAO conference this year in 2022 as a panelist, as well as just answering questions around being a consult for the more experienced members. Additionally, because I was recruited for the ELS panel, I had the opportunity to also be recruited for the IPAI, so our state organization for property assessment, for their DEI subcommittee for 2023. And so what that means for me there is that we have 4 courses that we are designing for our state conference that are new, as DEI is it's a new category that we are offering for education sessions at the state conference. And it is me as well as a team of 6 to 7 other people who, like I said, are developing 4 new sessions to be debuted at the state conference for IPAI in March of 2023. And then finally, as I've mentioned several times, it is truly integral that I am able to act as a consult for seasoned assessment professionals who are navigating succession planning and recruitment, because there really is no next generation of assessors until they're brought in. We like to make jokes that this is an accidental profession, that nobody actually kind of decides to be an assessor ever. You just kind of fall into it. But for those who have that opportunity, it's often not afforded to people like me, regardless of whether or not you're falling in, someone brought you in, regardless, because of the primary demographic that dominates this industry. So I cannot stress enough how integral it is that I am absorbing the information from all of the more seasoned members of IAAO, but also that they have my input as well, considering that this next generation will be rolling in soon. As per a study done by IAAO across, I believe there were about 2,000 participants in the self-survey that was conducted in 2020, approximately 40% of the people who took those survey, which is an accurate representation of the population that I'm speaking about, will be retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. There will be a lot of vacancies, and unless there are more experienced assessment professionals, such as myself, who will have 8 to 10 years of experience, once those 5 to 10 years roll around, we're not going to have a next generation of assessors. So it is very important that I continue to get this education. It's important that the people within our office continue to get this education, and attending these conferences is truly a fruitful experience, and I would really not like to miss any of them in the future, as I have been afforded so many opportunities and gotten to meet so many lovely people through being able to go. So if there are any, does anyone have any questions or comments?
Sharice.
I only have one question. What is DEI?
Yes, so DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
That's okay.
My apologies for not placing that in the slides.
Well, your generation likes to use those letters.
Yeah.
Grace.
I just want to say thank you so much for the presentation, sharing with us what you learned and all the great work at the conference and what you're doing here locally. Just thanks so much for sharing that experience with us.
Thank you.
Jaya.
Yeah, thank you. I think this was really helpful. I know we've had questions about there's been a lot of trainings needed for the assessor's office, and getting kind of a snapshot of where some of that has gone and what the benefit is, not only like to you as an individual, but kind of looking at the future of assessment more broadly was really helpful. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you all.
Anything further, Wayne, from the assessor's office? Okay. We'll move on to the closed session. We'll need a motion for going into closed session to discuss 2 things. The first is appointment of a person to fill a public office according to 5 ILCS 120/2C3, and a discussion of acquisition of or leasing of real property pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C5.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Chandra. All those in favor, will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Ms. Colasetti,
Yes.
Ms. Bishop,
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin.
Yes.
That motion passes. So for the benefit of the public, the town board will go upstairs to meet in closed session. No action is ever taken in closed session. We'll then return down here and resume the meeting. Okay, I will need a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Sharice. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti,
Yes.
Ms. Bishop,
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin,
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Yes.
That motion passes. We'll now move on to unfinished business. The first item is Resolution Number T 2022-10-017R, which is a resolution renewing the lease for the assessor's office in Lincoln Square.
I can speak
Go
to
ahead,
this.
Danielle.
So this is a resolution authorizing the township supervisor to execute a lease. A draft lease is in your packet and has been in your packet for a couple of months. This was we are proposing that we extend the lease by 6 months at a cap of no more than $1,000 a month, and the request is that we pay upfront. We receive a discount if we pay upfront, so we would pay $6,000 on or before January 1st.
Is there a motion, or a resolution, a motion to that effect?
I will make a motion to add that language.
I'll second.
Second. Moved by Mary Alice, second by Sharice. The motion was to, for the resolution, to add language at a monthly rate not to exceed $1,000 a month and to pay upfront. Discussion, second by Sharice. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti,
Yes.
Ms. Bishop,
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin,
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Yes.
That motion passes. Next item under new business is ordinance number T 2022-12-006, an ordinance levying taxes for all town purposes for the town of Cunningham, Champaign County, Illinois, for the tax year 2022, collectible in 2023. Danielle.
So essentially, each year, we have to declare a levy. You put an estimated levy on file, usually in November. Then you vote on it after a public hearing in December. And this is for 2022 collectible in 2023. The levy put forward is $2.47 million. It is high in that it has to ideally estimate the greatest amount of EAV that could be put on the tax rolls. It is different than the initial levy estimate because two pieces of information came forward in the intervening month. One is that the Carl case is going to the appellate court and could be decided, so it's important that if there is a return of Carl property EAV onto the tax rolls, that be captured. The second is that the city is retiring TIF 2, and that would also return money to the tax rolls. So this new number is an estimate in all of those scenarios. That said, we are limited by tax caps to our rate, and so once it is estimated what the EAV is, then we will be limited to that rate. This will not, very unlikely that this would be the actual rate of taxes, and this is generally how tax caps rolls each year. Any questions?
James.
This isn't really a question, but I did look at the current PTEL website, and I believe Township is limited by tax caps to 1/4% as far as its increase goes. So in the end, we are severely limited in what an increase can be.
Correct. Certainly doesn't keep up with the rate of health insurance increases annually.
Grace.
Thanks. Thanks for the explanation. If I could just clarify, make sure I got this straight. Because the 31% sounds like a lot, but it's the same rate to taxpayers that was already decided from the referendum last year, right?
Correct.
And it's higher, anticipating the full possible extent of things playing out with Carl and TIF 2. You say returning TIF 2, you mean the EAV going forward? You're already counting the balance
Yes.
being transferred? You're not counting the balance of the past TIF?
No,
You're counting
I
moving
believe
forward.
it's being expired. TIF 2 is expiring, and therefore those tax dollars, instead of being pooled into the TIF, would go to the taxing bodies, and Township is one of the many taxing bodies. So it would take into consideration that piece.
But are you talking about the previous balance in the TIF? Or are you
No.
talking about just moving forward?
Nope, just the TIF expiring, meaning that essentially we would no longer be pooling monies, future dollars into TIF 2.
Okay.
And just to be clear for taxpayers, they essentially would not be paying more on their tax bill, but there may be more people or more entities paying into the tax pie. So that's why the dollar is larger.
And in reality, we expect that it will be a lower amount than this in,
I mean, we can hope for the best.
okay,
But-
but it wouldn't be surprising, right? It's anticipated it's going to
Yeah.
be this or maybe less depending on how these other pieces play
Yeah,
out.
it's our fiduciary responsibility as a board and supervisor to put forward the most kind of expansive vision of what the tax rolls would look like, and then they are, it is cut down to size by tax caps and the actual reality of the EAV.
Thank you.
Mary Alice.
Just a point of clarification for anybody who's watching and is curious about their tax bill. There are two different levers in terms of the total amount of your tax bill. One is the amount that each taxing body levies, so it's a percentage. And the second one is how much your house is assessed at. So those two pieces work together. So it is possible that your tax bill will be higher, but that would not be because of this tax levy.
That's
We are
correct.
not changing the percentage, but your assessment on your property might change. So I just didn't want people to be confused about those two.
No, thank you for
components.
the clarification. That's correct. The tax rate does not change.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'll move ordinance number ordinance number T-2022-12-006, an ordinance levying taxes for all town purposes for the town of Cunningham, Champaign County, Illinois, for the tax year 2022, collectible in 2023.
I'll second.
Moved by Chandra, seconded by Jaya. Further discussion? Will the clerk please call the, James.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that even though the city council also behaves as the town board, city council, the city of Urbana is a home rule entity, and it has a little more freedom when it comes to what it does for taxes. The state of Illinois passed tax caps years ago, and the township is limited by that legislation. It's important to know that, why would you ask for all of this tax increase that you don't expect to have? Well, one of the features of PTEL, property tax caps, is once an amount is let go, you never get it back. So taxing bodies who are covered by tax caps take this practice, and unfortunately it's confusing to taxpayers of asking for money that they know they can't get. In this particular case, it's exaggerated because if the Carl case is decided in favor of the taxing bodies, like the township, a whole bunch of property will become part of the assessed value of our area. And so we have to be prepared for that to happen. That doesn't mean any individual's tax is going to go up that much, but we have to have levied it to be able to collect what we could when that new property comes on board. And so I know it's a challenge. I've talked to several people about why this is going on and what it means, what our tax levies mean. And I just want to assure everyone, and I'm always happy to talk with people further about this because it's a little bit annoying and fascinating at the same time. But individuals who are worried about their tax bill should not be worried that the township tax bill is going to go up significantly because of this levy. It can only go up 0.25% if it goes up at all. So, and that is determined by the treasurer as they calculate the assessed value and return to us what we can actually do as a town board.
Any other questions? Is there a motion? We have a motion. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Hersey?
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti?
Yes.
Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes. The last item of new business is approval of the Township Board meeting schedule, and that was included in your packet. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move approval of the next year's town board schedule.
Second.
Moved by Chandra, seconded by Jaya. Further discussion? Grace?
Thanks. I just wanted to clarify that we were still starting at 6 PM every town one. Is that right? Because there's an asterisk on the bottom on just one township. Like the way I read it, it looks like only January 9th starts at 6. Does anyone see what I mean? There's an asterisk only on that first meeting. And so I think it'd be more clear to just get rid of the little asterisk altogether and just say we start at 6 PM every time we meet, right? Okay,
Yes.
that was all. Thank you.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Hersey?
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti?
Yes.
Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
And that motion passes. And with no further business before the town board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to our third meeting of the evening.